All right, we've got a project. We've got our project charter, our charter document that tells us who's going to do the work, what is the work or what is the project, when is it going to be done, and what's our budget for doing it. So that's the overall picture of the project. Next, we get some idea of the quality triangle. That's cost, scope, and schedule. Those all need to be managed together. Obviously, if you want to reduce your cost, then either your scope has to reduce or your schedule has to maybe increase. And that gets us to the finished product. We know what we want. We know kind of the quality level we're going to go after, and we know where we want to go. Now, how do we manage this? This is where our knowledge areas come in. There's 9 of them here. They may or may not all apply to every project, but I think in some form or other, they'll apply to most projects. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you a very brief overview of each one of these. And then throughout the semester, we're going to take a more in-depth look at each one. The first one is scope. And that's chapter 5 in section 1. The scope is what specifically are we going to do? So you have to gather the requirements, what needs to be done in the project, define your scope, and the reason we have to do that is the charter document gives us kind of an overall picture of what we want, and we need to get right down into the details of what exactly are we going to do. Next, we need to create our WBS, and that's very important project management, the WBS, work breakdown structure. And that's a list of tasks, all the tasks that have to be done to complete the project. We have to validate our scope, make sure that the details that we plan to do will actually accomplish the overall objective of the project, and then we have to control the scope. Communications, very important. How are we going to communicate? Are we going to use email? Are we going to use texts? Maybe we have to write letters, mail letters. Some documents really need to be tracked accurately, and perhaps they need to be couriered back and forth. So you have to plan your communication. If you don't plan how to communicate, there can be misunderstandings. Things don't get recorded properly. People end up disagreeing on what should or should not be done in the project. The schedule. So we take our work breakdown structure and we plan when each one of those tasks has to be done. How long each task takes. Milestones. Milestones are things that they have no duration, but it's either an event that has to occur on a certain day or it's a completion status. For example, if you're doing a project for a graduation ceremony, the graduation ceremony it's set. It happens on May 15th. That's a milestone. It can't change. Another kind of milestone would be perhaps you're building a house and at some point you have the house totally enclosed. The windows are in, the doors are in, the siding is on, the roof is on, and it's weatherproof and you can lock it at night. That would be a milestone that you can actually secure this house. Maybe the electrical and plumbing's not done, the floors aren't in, there's a lot of work to do, but you've made a milestone that you can actually close up that house. Cost is very important. You have to have a management plan for your cost. How are the costs going to be tracked? Who's going to manage it? Is the project manager going to do that? Or maybe on a bigger project, you have a finance department that's going to manage the costs. You have to create estimates during the planning phase. You have to create budgets and you have to control your costs. Quality has to be managed. How are you going to ensure that the quality is the level that you're expecting? Resources. Resources are people, machinery, materials, all the things that need to be involved with building your project. If you're building a house, you would need people resources. You would need electricians, plumbers, masons, carpenters, and you would also need equipment. You would need a crane to lift the joists onto the house. You would need a concrete truck to deliver your concrete. And of course, you need materials. You need wood, electrical supplies, concrete. You need to estimate your resources. You need to figure out how to acquire those resources. Just knowing that you need an electrician isn't good enough. You need to know where you're going to find an electrician. And then once you put that all together, you have to manage that team of resources, people and equipment and materials. Risks need to be managed. You need to identify what are the potential risks. You have to analyze those risks to see if they really matter or not. Some risks don't really matter, and some risks are catastrophic if they occur. Once you know the risks, then you have to put in a mitigation plan. And as the project goes, you have to monitor those risks. Procurement, that's another word for buying things. What's your procurement plan? Where are you going to buy your materials, and how and when are you going to place your orders? Back to building the house, you know you need lumber to build your house, but where are you going to get that lumber? Are you going to drive a truck down to Home Depot every morning and buy the lumber, put it on your credit card, and go to the job site? Or are you going to find a distributor that will send you the entire package of lumber all at one time and then send you an invoice for it? How are you going to procure things? And then how do you manage that procurement? How are you going to track your orders? Have your windows been ordered for your house? If they're ordered, when are they going to arrive? Is it going to be in a timely fashion? Are they going to be late? How are you going to ensure the quality of your procurement items? And how do you authorize payment? Stakeholders are anyone who has any kind of interest in your project. If you're building a house, say you're building a house for a client, then your client is one of the stakeholders. But also the neighbors in the neighborhood are also stakeholders, because if you make too much noise, they're going to complain and they're going to cause problems for you. So you need to know who are the people involved, who are the regulators, who are the neighbors, who are people just maybe are interested in your project. And then you have to plan on how are you going to engage with those people. If you're concerned with the neighbors to the house you're building, are you going to go visit them in person? Are you going to send them a letter? Are you going to ignore them? It's all part of your plan of how you engage those stakeholders. And sometimes not engaging them as part of your plan. These are the knowledge areas of the project. Down the left-hand side, we've got our knowledge areas. And each of those to different degrees occurs at different times in the project life cycle. We've got our project life cycles and we've got our knowledge areas. They both need to be considered when you're managing your project. Go ahead and look at each of those sections that relate to scope, scheduling, cost management, and all these knowledge areas. Have a look at them in the textbook. Read the first couple pages, scan through the sections to see what's in there, and then there's a quiz to see your understanding level on these. Okay, talk to you soon. Thanks.